She's been an active participant in NATO's criminal destruction of Libya.
All right, watch Mo Jackson Hinkle start the show. See how this goes.
Training Islamist opposition in Libya after the NATO intervention that deposed Muammar Gaddafi and saw him murdered in the streets by jihadist proxies after drones attacked his motorcade. Khan's traveled to Libya thanks to the National Democratic Institute, one of the subsidiaries of the very same CIA cutout, the National Endowment for Democracy, that funds Bellingcat. The National Democratic Institute was directed at the time by Madeleine Albright, a militaristic former Secretary of State who famously stated that she was perfectly fine with being responsible for killing half a million Iraqi children.
We have heard that 500,000 children have died. I mean, that's more children than died in Hiroshima. And you know, is the price worth it? I think this is a very hard choice, but we think the price is worth it.
When I called out Khan's U.S. government-sponsored regime change vacation on Twitter, she doubled down on her slander, demanding to know if I had also lined my pockets with Bashar bucks. Full disclosure, I have never received money from Bashar al-Assad, the Syrian government, or any of its functionaries. And I don't know how getting Syrian government money would even be possible, given the U.S. sanctions that make such an act a criminal offense. But I did receive the same.
This is true. I can't believe everyone that literally believes this bullshit about Assad money. Assad is currently trying to rebuild his fucking country and can't because of all of the U.S. sanctions on like basic necessary construction material for rebuilding the infrastructure that has been destroyed by this U.S. and UK funded dirty war that's been going on for years now. Like, first of all, that would just be the most unprincipled thing in the world. Like, could you imagine a YouTuber taking money from like a government or an intelligence agency and doing their bidding? I guess we don't really have to imagine because that is what Philosophy Tube, Abigail Thorne, the largest bread tuber, I believe in the UK, maybe largest bread tuber in the world, she did that, yeah, Abigail Thorne did that. We don't really have to imagine that's what Abigail Thorne did. But, you know, I'm principled and I wouldn't do that. You know, call me what you want, political commentator, YouTuber, whatever. I'm still principled enough to not take money from a government and just do their bidding. It's not for me. I like to be independent. I've never like had anyone off. I've never had what's happened with. Thank you, Marxist Hibero, for the super chat.
In other words, she is Namiki Neoconst.
True. NATO Namiki Neoconst, even better. I've been offered like news jobs before. That's from like state media. But I've never been interested because it's just like I don't want to do that. You know, once you do that, I feel like people forever have that on you as like a thing they can say about you. Be like, oh, you're this sort of government propaganda because you worked for this news company once. It's like, okay, so why do you not act like that about Jake Tapper, for example? Because all the same companies that control the U.S. government control CNN and MSNBC. So by default, you are basically you're worse. You're going straight to the source if you're controlled by those entities. And let us not also forget that MSNBC and CNN are literally filled with spooks from the government, so they do toe that line, without a doubt. And I don't know. I've just always wanted to remain independent. Never really been interested. Clearly, our show is doing well enough to the point where I don't feel like I have to work for a corporate or otherwise state-funded news network to make a living. But I just wouldn't really like doing that. So that's why I don't do it.
Award that JImmy Dore and many other anti-war journalists have received from the non-profit group she referenced, and which, once again, is not part of the Syrian government in any way. And guess what? I'm proud to have earned an award approved by the family of Serena Shim, the brave American journalist who lost her life exposing the dirty war in Syria. Beyond her part in bringing slavery back to the African continent, Namiki Khan was trained as a millennial thought leader by the Truman National Security Project, a Democratic Party-aligned pro-war think tank that helped groom noted revolutionary leaders like Pete Buttigieg and Michelle Flournoy. The Truman National Security Project was formed to create a new generation of hawkish Democrats rethinking security questions.
Yes, I got that award, and I have it right here. Serena Shim Laureate Award. Very proud of it. You guys know why I'm most proud of this? Julian Assange won this award when he was younger. When Julian Assange was younger, he won this award. And it's one of my most proud achievements.
Post 9/11 world, Namiki seemed to fit perfectly with the brand. Here's millennial thought leader Namiki Khan discussing her time in Libya in a 2013 interview.
When it comes to NATO, all I witnessed was Libyans being incredibly grateful to NATO because it was so targeted. You know, you go by these buildings where NATO struck the buildings and they just exploded. It was amazing.
Even in 2015, long after the liberal hawks who pushed Obama to strike Libya had been wholly discredited, and the country was in perpetual chaos, Khan stood by her support for the attack, tweeting that the neocon senator Marco Rubio was right about.
She's like, the Libyans, they just loved me as a NATO funded ally coming into their country, training Islamist opposition, and just they loved the fact that NATO was just doing these targeted bombings on their civilian infrastructure. It was just so great. I just love it. I'm going out for coffee in Brooklyn later too. You want to come? It's going to be so fun. We're going to laugh about civilian deaths and infrastructure bombings in Libya. It's going to be so great. We'll go out for
Libya. At the same time, she was regularly appearing on Fox News to shill for Obama's wars in Syria and Iraq. Did you hear anything new from the president today?
You know, what the president did today was he explained what he's accomplished, what the administration has done with the rest of the world, with the coalition of Arab states, the world coalition, in attacking ISIS at its core in Iraq and in Syria. He is talking about cutting off the head of ISIS. You know, the time
Are they contained?
They're more contained than they've ever been. They're not spreading as of last week.
God, I'm telling you guys, having Namiki on my show, I don't think I can produce better content than that. Imagine having Namiki Khan on my show.
Anybody could kill Namiki Khan. She's an idiot.
She ever will, but that would.
She's a talking point shill. Jesus, man.
When you look at military, when you look at the troops on the ground there, they're being attacked militarily. It is America's amping up of intelligence. It's America's amping up of national security and internet security.
Sure, like Namiki Khan's young.
Thank you. I'm a Phil American again.
Dan co-produced Killing Gaza with Max Blumenthal.
Yes, he did. Great film. So anyways, that's NATO Namiki Khan's. You know, she's of the George Soros, Mike Pompeo, John Bolton mindset that we should be waging a war in China over an alleged genocide. That is not currently happening. You know, so let's take a look at this. This is great. So Namiki brought on someone who's just like got lie after lie on stack to talk about the alleged Uyghur genocide in China, which is being pushed by the deep state, Mike Pompeo, George Soros, Joe Biden, Ned Price, all of these figures. Anthony Blinken, they're all pushing this shit. It's all deep state bullshit.
Goods. And then for the panel today, we have Arun Chhabri, who is the host of the committee program, and of course, he's worked in administrations, political, he has had a great sort of Made in China show. We are so honored to have Amelia Ping on. She's the author of Made in China, A Prisoner, an SOS Letter, and The Hidden Cost of America's Cheap Goods. She's an award-winning investigative journalist of Uyghur and Chinese descent. Her work is published in the Republic, Mother
One more indica edible.
Sunday Review, among many
Trying to chill out with Jackson for a minute, guys.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, I want to kind of take a step back and just get to just what's been happening with the Chinese government and the Uyghur population. I think there's been a lot of misinformation, probably.
Yep. No doubt. There's been a lot of misinformation, Namiki. No doubt.
Strategically so, put out their propaganda, I would even say, to confuse folks. But this is your dissent. I asked you, somebody from the community, to explain what's been going on and
somebody from the community. Does she live in Xinjiang? Does this person live in Xinjiang? I doubt it. In the community. What, did she grow up down the block from the concentration camps? From the community. I love it. Literally, yeah. They used to have neighborhood cookouts and stuff, and they've stopped because of the concentration camps now, you guys, I swear.
Why is it not more well known in the States?
Well, the rise of the concentration
The intelligence community is what she was referring to? Oh, okay. Thank you.
camps that are detaining Uyghurs in China today is closely tied with China's Belt and Road Initiative, which is a $1 trillion economic development strategy. It's this infrastructure project that connects China to the Middle East, connects China to Europe and West Asia. It's extremely, China has put a lot of investments in this project.
Definitely sounds like she grew up in Xinjiang, right? You can hear it in her accent.
And it's kind of too big to fail. And where the Uyghurs live, the Uyghur region, also known as Xinjiang, that is in western China and Central Asia. So the Belt and Road, a key part of the Belt and Road.
At least she didn't mispronounce Xinjiang like that kid I debated last time on the Leftward Bound. He kept calling it Zhang. He's like, John Zhang is under attack right now by the Chinese government. John Zhang
goes through that area. So based on the history of the Chinese government's relationship with the Uyghurs, which hasn't been a good one because Uyghurs and other Turkic people in China are basically living as second-class citizens. It's hard for them to get
second-class citizens who are allowed to have mass prayer. They have 20,000 mosques for them all across the country.
This is Jackson's tipping point issue. Anybody who hasn't watched him, I do like Jackson. I agree with him 85% of the time, which is all you need to really care for somebody for, because you can't find somebody that you agree with more than that, honestly. But you talk about China, he will jump on it. He's studied a bit.
It's easier for Uyghur kids to get into schools than non-Chinese. Uyghur people weren't subjected to the one-child policy. Yeah, it really sounds like they're being treated as second-class citizens.
Jobs, if they go to a hotel and try to book a hotel, they might get turned away because they're not Han Chinese. These are things that are a common experience for Uyghurs in China. So the Chinese government is afraid of an uprising in the region, and there hasn't been any large-scale uprisings that could actually disrupt the Belt and Road Initiative, but because of that fear,
I like how she's painting there to be a fear of the Belt and Road Initiative amongst the Uyghur population. It's like, oh no, jobs and investment. Please don't force it upon me. Please get rid of your jobs and investment. I don't want them. Economic prosperity? How could you? Don't force that upon the population of Zhongjing.
John Jingleheimer is under attack. Leftward bound.
It sounded like you were saying John Wayne. Yeah, John Wayne. John Wayne, China. You haven't heard of it? That's how these people always act too. Like when Josh Rogan smears Syria and advocates for Biden to help the Syrian people, he's like Joe Biden really just is not sanctioning Syria enough. He's allowing Bashar al-Assad to rebuild the country, begin rebuilding the country. He needs to apply these sanctions if he wants to help the Syrian people. They think that economic investment in rebuilding countries that have been war torn as a result of U.S. and UK funded dirty wars is like the number one threat to America.
Chinese government started rounding up millions of Uyghurs into camps since 2016, 2017, which is really when you saw investments in the Belt and Road Initiative ramp up.
Okay, so let's.
It also just happens to coincide right with the moment in which terrorism in the name of this Wahhabist ideology that had been exported to Pakistan from Saudi Arabia and then subsequently was forced upon Uyghur people who went to Pakistan to go fight with the Mujahideen in Afghanistan had come back to China, began committing these acts of terrorism. Over 1,000 acts of terrorism between 1996 and 2016. And starting in 2016 was when we saw the most massive terror attacks moving further westward towards Beijing from Xinjiang and taking more and more innocent lives in the process. So yeah, I think it's good that China cracked down on terrorism.
To be very close. So the Uyghur population, they overlap with the location of this initiative, like where they're expanding their investments. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. A turning point in terms of the spike of the camps happened in 2017 when China invested $66 billion in the infrastructure of that region for the Belt and Road Initiative.
And what does the Belt and Road Initiative do? What happened with Mike Figueroa?
Thank you, Vroom, for the super chat, and thank you to Audrey Bonaparte for the last one. We reacted to that. My streams are. You can go back and rewind the streams. You can just click back if you want to watch it. But it was about he smeared JImmy Dore surrounding an article he made up. Or he didn't make up the article. I guess he didn't read the article. He just read the headline and completely misinterpreted the article. It was crazy. Thank you, though. Namiki Khan here doesn't even know what the Belt and Road Initiative is.
What is their goal? Is it natural resources?
It's building these China-funded bridges, like 5G network.
Holy shit! They want to build bridges? Oh no! We better go to war.
And other major infrastructure projects. That region serves a major transportation hub for the Belt and Road Initiative. So it's a huge logistical importance to China.
And when you say, okay, so the infrastructure is for trade purposes. So if there are...
They want to trade via their new infrastructure? God, I mean, that's basically genocide.
Natural resource exploration in other areas of the East, this is a region of transport solely.
Yes, it's of huge logistical importance. So that's why, if we have companies pulling out of that region, a region that China has made a lot of investment into setting up as an economic hub.
They want economic prosperity for the people living there? When do we start the drone strikes? Someone answer me, when do we start the drone strikes? We cannot tolerate this any longer.
Then that could lead to some meaningful changes in terms of closing the camps.
Okay, so let's rewind just a little bit so we understand how these camps operate. When did the Chinese government start to crack down? Was it prior to this investment? Were there protests? How did this all originate?
There were some small-scale protests in a few years ago.
Thank you, Autofill American.
The op is kind of cute, though, smiling face.
Don't talk about
That's
looks.
what I'm saying.
God,
Bringing Nomiki
fucking...
on the show would be hilarious. It would be my best content ever.
There was a
looks makes politics is useless.
At one of the popular train
Don't talk about looks in comments. That's so stupid.
That is what led to the crackdown.
No.
Following that massive attack, that is what led to the crackdown on terrorism in the country. If we had that much terrorism in our country, I hope our government would crack down upon it as well.
But there hasn't been any evidence that there would be any large-scale protests that could disrupt their economic investments.
So this is just all to make sure there's absolutely no, why the Uyghur population? I mean, if there's no protests and they can go about...
Isn't that so funny? Nomiki's like, so it's an infrastructure project, but tell me why I should advocate for NATO bombings on targeted infrastructure in Xinjiang. Explain that part to me. I I need to know that part.
A business and continue to invest in infrastructure. Why are they creating camps? Is there some other sort of nationalistic goal?
Yes, well, the goal is to...
Nationalistic goal, or are they racist, or are they anti-LGBTQ, or... I mean, tell me, I need to know why I'm going to send drones over there. Tell me.
Have all populations in China, whether you're Tibetan, whether you're Uyghur, whether you're Kazakh, identify closely with the Chinese government, which means having a uniform identity and cutting ties with your own culture and your heritage, unfortunately.
And how successful has that been?
Through coercion, it has unfortunately been very successful. I mean, my own family tells that story. My grandmother was half Uyghur. She grew up in that home.
You guys, I respect the effort. Someone sent me, if you want to reach out to Namiki Khan, so you can DM her here. You know, I appreciate it, but so naive of you to think that she was not the first person on Twitter to ever block me. Immediately upon criticizing her once, I got the block. I got the axe.
That part of the homeland and knew the culture, knew the language, but within...
Bro, you guys realize that these again are, this is ASPI footage. These are government buildings, primary schools, and senior high schools in Xinjiang that they've mislabeled as concentration camps.
Just one generation that was mostly lost. My family and my cousins to this day cannot speak the Uyghur language. We just don't have a connection with that part of our heritage.
And how large is the population, the Uyghur population?
The latest, I don't have the latest numbers, but there's currently at least 1 million Uyghurs in camps.
So in terms of these camps, what are the circumstances?
So you might be wondering now, wow, 1 million people in these camps, that's pretty crazy. How do we know that there's 1 million people, or over 1 million, or maybe 2 million people in these concentration camps that are actually just primary schools, senior schools, and government buildings? Well, let's take a look. We talked about this before, but it's important to continue to remember why they claim that there are 2 million people in these concentration camps. So a Washington D.C.-based NGO, right, that is serving the interests of the likes of George Soros, Mike Pompeo, John Bolton, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, right? They go out to Xinjiang with an agenda in mind, right? That agenda, of course, being that they need to foment a story, a narrative that will allow the United States to claim that there's a genocide taking place in China, even though there's not. So this is what they did. They went there, they went to Xinjiang, and rather than looking for the, at least like several people who are in these alleged concentration camps or anything like this, this is what they found. CHRD, Chinese Human Rights Defenders, the network of Chinese Human Rights Defenders, which is funded by a bunch of CIA cutouts, estimated that roughly 1 million members of ethnic Uyghurs have been sent to re-education detention camps, and roughly 2 million have been forced to attend re-education programs in Xinjiang. According to CHRD, this figure was based on interviews and limited data. Well, I guess it's important to ask how much limited data is considered limited, or even data, right? CHRD states that it interviewed dozens of ethnic Uyghurs in the course of this study. Their enormous estimate was actually based on interviews with exactly 8 Uyghur individuals. So they interviewed 8 people and said that 1 to 3 million people were being held in concentration camps as a result of this. I kid you not, 8 people.
I'm gonna give that a break for a minute. That's just, he just goes on forever in that subject. Yeah, it's not that entertaining. But now you know, Namiki Khan is horrible, so that was good. She is awful. And I am now trying to play what the screen is. Let's do this. So, Stony Progressive guys, checking out some news. The most cringe part of the show. Stupid Siri reading his comments. Man, I hate that part. Do not enjoy that. Pandemic. That was my COVID cough there, guys. I still have it. Not COVID cough. Yeah, that was a great clip. Nick Brana, I don't know what show that was originally on, but Jackson had found that and brought it to us, so thank you for that. Still have Jackson live over here, but he is still just listening to Namiki, so I'm moving on. And but that was a great clip from him. Thank you for. I believe in the same way. I'm not a mandate person. I believe we can be doing better ways. And health insurance would be one way. You know, we're gonna push mandates on people. Let's push mandates on businesses to give health insurance to those of us who have to be dealing with people every day. Every EMT driver in the country should have health insurance right now, and there are definitely EMT drivers out there that do not have it. They need to have it now. So why are there not things like that being pushed? But mandates on the vaccines not necessary, guys. But that's where we're at. That's what we're doing. Looking for ways to divide and conquer. We divide, we divide, we divide. I was gonna try one live reaction. Haven't checked this out at all. Not even looked at it yet, but go ahead. Ooh. I don't know why I picked this clip. I just YouTube algorithm picked it for me, and I thought I'd go with the algorithm, see what mainstream media wanted me to watch. I thank you, YouTube, for being fantastic. I want to try to watch this whole thing. He's brutal, man. How's the hill still a thing? Why? All right. Well, I thought I could handle doing a whole clip and talking about it, and lesson learned. I'm able to share the screens, and I don't want to listen to that. So let's try it again, guys. Let's take another take at this. Watch my favorite clip ever, and this is worth watching. Guys, boom. 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 Sorry, that was my favorite clip of somebody calling it out. This was horrible, and I can't believe I did that to us, and I won't do it again. It won't happen again. So yeah, that was my attempt at looking at a recent clip and hurt my head, and look at my favorite past clip with David Bartlett, guys. Since I can share screen here, wanted to do a new clip of a Stony Progressive, and just do a quick overview of how I do my videos. I will be doing campaign takedowns for here on out, looking at people. I'm not going to go through the screen by screen like I'm going to quickly do here, but I will be doing my research, and just want to show you how I do my research, so that way it is look-attable. You can go back, show that it's documented, and I will just show you some of the websites I use to track our congressmen, do my research, and then that way we can all attack them and do our own research and due diligence come election cycle. So let's take a look. First site I like to go to if you're looking at things is Government Track. That's your Main Street media site. This was Peter Meyer. He was AOC attacker for her going down to Florida and getting a little shifty, getting swifty, getting the COVID, getting drunk, getting rickety wrecked. So I want to take a look at him being from Michigan. You can see him right here as ideological score with the Democrats and Republican. He is a centrist of sorts, but it gives you some good links. Sees where he's voted on some key items, and if you're just going to do a quick look at a candidate, I would say that Open Secrets is also fantastic. You got the good categories here, guys. Really wonderful way to check out your local or somebody that you know is going into an election soon. You can see who contributed. Again, this Peter Meyer, he's been very recently plugged on a handful of shows. It was really interesting just to take a look real quick that he, out of nowhere, really jumped on the scene, and they gave him a spotlight. He's a first term. He just got elected, but he has a last name Meyer. And if anybody in the Michigan area wants to think about Myers, it is a massive corporation. And guess what? They're a contributor. Now I haven't Doug. I just wanted to do this as an example, but that is not the best forum for somebody to have that. And then Truth Dig is another fantastic representation. My thing here is going very slow, but you will find fantastic articles. And then just YouTubing the person as well. We'll get, I've already done it here, and instantly jumps right to this guy's a handful of times in this past year. He's brand new congressman. He is a first term. He has not done a whole lot, and if you guys want to dig in, but this is what I do. I do it for about a half a day before I present these articles, and I'll be doing this hopefully on a bi-weekly basis. We'll start taking down everybody going through election cycles. His attack on AOC was pretty funny. If we wanted to look at something, actually, I guess he's not as many recent videos as I thought. The Build Back Better vote, always interesting. Thank you, YouTube, for your commercials. Always promoting the commercials, YouTube. Good job, guys. Granted, doesn't look like a billionaire kid. That's good. Good for him. And with good reason, I will be doing these during the day and dropping the videos at night because these are so much more boring at night. Thought I had the energy for that. I do run out of energy. That's absolute trait of coming out of the COVID. Coming out of the COVID, I've been tired so fast, and it is fun. And that's where we're at. But luckily, I'm usually awake this time anyway. Oh my goodness. So I will be doing those videos every once in a while. Wanted to do a little more gathering with Jackson tonight, but he is just eating dinner and watching Namiki, the crazy chick, Kansk, and I also wanted to end on a funny note, but I'm not sure how well this is going to work. Nobody's responding on my volume, so I'm assuming everybody's just passed out, barely watching. Oh, comfort, love. Sorry, I love that. Love that, love that, love that. That is Office Space. One of the best scenes ever. Trying to end with a little humility, little humor, because looking at these parties, looking at these candidates is frustrating. I've lost you all. That's okay. Give me time to figure this out. Wow, that happened quick. But he loves you. Yeah. Greatest story ever told from a Zeitgeist movie. Clip there. George Carlin, the comedian, his stand up was legendary, and he talked about these kind of things. And if you understand comedy and you didn't just blindly listen to that, then you may have laughed and understood a little bit. It's all a big joke, and we are the thing, but always good to end on a little humor. The humor of George Carlin is therapeutic. It is therapeutic. Um, Ending with comedy tonight. Yeah, I wanted to finish the comedy, but just want to do one quick thing. Um, do it as a segment though. So, Stony Progressive. We can all. I'm a Jimmy Dore fan. I definitely catch him every day. I wouldn't say he's my news source. There's independent journalists that he uses that are great though, and he is an anchor. He's a person that puts forward the news. He takes articles from independent sources and puts them forward. He does great. Um, I will go with the critique that when you look at his videos, he has a lot of them hitting as just all backs. It's like half and half. I was super excited a couple years ago when he said that he was going to just go at it with the political commentary and not so much the politics of Democrat Republican electoral politics, but the politics of protests and you know, union creation and all these alternative ways of doing things and protests and rallies and just getting other ways going. And you know, almost always name dropping or COVID checking is not actually progressing us. And you have to be able to call out your actually. You don't want to heroize anybody. So I think Jimmy is getting a little, you know, caught up in it at the moment, and maybe he feels like he's doing the only person fighting against the machine. I mean, anybody that's a far left or far right independent news source is going to be hitting these news selections. They all hit it at least once a week with COVID. No one's given up on COVID completely. You just don't need to do it every day. You just don't need to do it every show. And I think that's important. If you go to like people like Revolutionary Blackout, these guys are hitting way more. Like the General Strike Summit was great, but they're really trying to go out and talk to ordinary people, working class people, and they have a few people that actually go to those sources, go out to those rallies on Saturdays and Sundays to the and get it firsthand. And I think that's quite important to have somebody out there doing that. As soon as I can afford to, I will be doing that myself. At the moment, I'm beginning of a season, so my working butt will be working. That is what I'll be doing. I love YouTube. They told me Jackson's live. Rockfin shows he's not live. I usually choose Rockfin to watch anything. If you have the opportunity, you should absolutely check out Rockfin. Check out Rumble. Check out alternative sites. They do cost money for platform people, but to watch, you can do both of those for free. I just lost it. And I am losing the stream here. It looks like my internet connectivity or what's happening. But I'm gonna leave it at that. We will stream again Friday night, hopefully with a true takedown now that I can share screens and I have a little better idea of what I'm doing here. This stream seems to be better than the last one I tried, so I will do a congressional takedown. Leave it in the comments if you have any candidates you want me to take down. I do enjoy doing it. And I'll put a few hours of my day off into it. Absolutely. Take care, and let's toast one up and talk some news on Friday night, guys.